Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be on this fine, beautiful planet. It has been a while. It's been a while since I can. Yeah, I haven't done this in a hot minute just because I was starting to get bored with it, and I'm not here to have it as a career or anything. I'm just kind of bored. I was supposed to make a movie called Sicklerville like a cajillion times at this point, but like there's literally one thing after another that keeps happening, and I'm going to go crazy if I don't go make something myself. So I need to like just do something again for myself. So this is kind of why I'm here again. Hey, how's it going? I'm back. And I've been doing a bunch of stuff lately. I've got this thing with Killing Time Experience with Felissa Rose and Brett Wagner. It's been pretty fun. Some really big news coming from that sooner than later. I don't know how much I can say, so I'm not going to say anything about it at all. But if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. It's not a podcast. I like to say that it's The View, but for like horror fans. But it's not all just about horror. We kind of do talk about like serious things that are going on mentally and stuff like that. And we got some really cool guests. We had John Abrahams on, Dave Sheridan on, and it's been a good time. It's been pretty fun because we do them in my house. It's just kind of funny having these people I grew up watching on my TV to now just sitting in my dining nook yapping about their life. So it's kind of cool. But one thing I've been like really wanting to revisit the movie Evil Dead, and I haven't. I probably should have watched that before doing this, but I really love that movie, the Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead. That is, Evil Dead 2 is always better. But everybody always talks about Evil Dead 2. I want to talk about Evil Dead. There's something to just about, I guess maybe in my soul, I'm like, oh, I want to talk about something that feels like you could just go out and go do yourself. And that's exactly what the original 1981 Evil Dead was about. It was just about, it was a total DIY movie. And I'm all for DIY. I love DIY, including the hardware store. It's a great store. A cabin in the woods, 5 friends, a cursed book, possession, mayhem, tree assaults, yes, that scene, and gallons of blood. The Evil Dead is the horror movie that took a tiny budget and turned it into a terrifying fever dream that wouldn't quit. Evil Dead was directed by the one and only Sam Raimi, who you may know has gone on to make a whole bunch of other movies that really aren't horror movies, like including the Spider-Man trilogy, including that third Spider-Man movie, which we don't really talk about. Maybe in 20 years from now, people will be like, it's actually not that bad. But Sam Raimi, he was only 20 years old when he made the original Evil Dead movie. The budget was roughly about $350,000, which is technically a lot of money. I kind of hate when I've said this before in so many other videos where it's just like, oh my god, it's a low budget movie. It's like, well, $350,000 back in 1981, or they didn't make the movie in 1981, so it was probably made in like 1979 if I remember correctly. I got a book somewhere on it. Got this great book, so I know it's going to tell me when they actually started shooting the movie. Because what they did was make a Super 8 short film called Within the Woods in 1978 too. It was pretty much a proof of concept that they then took to family and friends and even dentists in Michigan to go and find the $350,000 to actually make the movie. Taking 2 steps back, so the movie was filmed in Morristown, Tennessee from November 1979 to January 1980. So in today's standard, that money is about over $1.5 million. Like, yes, it's low budget, but like, holy shit, that's really not that low budget when you really break it down, you know what I mean? Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, who plays Ash, and producer Rob Tapert were childhood friends who made Super 8 films together before going all in on Evil Dead. And the Book of the Dead, let's talk about the book of the Necronomicon, you know, hey, Ex Mortis, the evil force that comes from the Necronomicon, Ex Mortis, is a Sumerian book bound in human flesh and inked in blood. Reading passages aloud, that's how you summon ancient demonic forces. Now let's talk about Bruce Campbell for a little hot second. Bruce Campbell was cast as Ash Williams, and Bruce Campbell became a horror icon from this movie. He's always playing like in smaller things, even like what's so cool is like Sam Raimi eventually, when he started making these huge studio movies, that he would always cast Bruce Campbell in like this, like some random, you know, one line thing and just proceeding to move on, which is pretty cool. I love that when friends do that with other friends. I think that's pretty cool. I read somewhere once upon a time that Bruce Campbell was mainly hired from Sam Raimi because Sam Raimi thought that he just looked like the best. He was like the best looking out of all of them. So anyway, let's take it all the way back before Evil Dead was even thought of. And that's because Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and Rob Tapert were childhood friends who made Super 8 movies together for fun, mostly goofy slapstick and horror shorts. They wanted to break into Hollywood, but no one would give them real money unless they had had a serious sample of their work. Let's talk about Within the Woods from 1978. Within the Woods was a $1,600 short film starring Bruce Campbell and made over a weekend, shot in the woods with a lot of ketchup, fake knives, and spooky voices. It was essentially a proof of concept, the primitive ancestor of Evil Dead. They showed it to local investors, including dentists, lawyers, and random rich folks in Michigan, to raise money for a feature version. This trio, and even like Sam Raimi's brother, like Ted Raimi, they all loved Three Stooges. And that's why, like, when you watch Evil Dead 2 especially, it's so zany and bonkers. It's like as if it's a Three Stooges episode that never existed. So Raimi, Tappert, and Campbell hustled hard to raise money. They wore suits, went door to door, and sold the Evil Dead as a surefire investment. They scraped together $350,000 over months, often promising investors they get a cut if the movie made it to theaters. Some even mortgaged their homes. They found a real abandoned cabin in rural Tennessee to film in. It had no plumbing, no heating, and just pure misery. The shoot lasted over 12 weeks, and the crew was mostly made of friends. People literally got injured, burned, and hypothermic. Bruce Campbell often slept in the actual cabin and did his own stunts. His ankle got wrecked mid-shoot, but he kept going. Remember, just like 2 seconds ago, I was talking about the Three Stooges. We're about to talk about just a little bit more. Raimi, a huge fan of Looney Tunes and B-movie horror, went wild with creative low-budget tricks. Stop motion, reverse photography, homemade blood recipes, and that iconic demon cam shot. You know, the cool one that's like goes through the things. Well, I'll play a clip real quick. When they ran out of actors, crew members wore wigs and stood in. There's even a term for these random stand-ins, fake shemps. I mean, just as any indie movie, when you got it in the can, you think you got something good, you're like, we're gonna go sell this piece of shit. And then people start looking at it like it's a piece of shit. Because this movie almost didn't come out. Stephen King saw it at a festival and gave it a glowing quote, the most ferociously original horror film of the year. That blurb landed them distribution with New Line Cinema and helped turn it into an underground hit. We gotta thank New Line Cinema. New Line Cinema, which is called the house that Freddy built for you horror fans out there, because New Line Cinema, which was started by Robert Shea. You may know his sister, actually, Lynn Shea, who's in all like the Conjuring movies and stuff. She's always like popping in and out of horror movies, which, once again, that's awesome to do. Keeping it in the family. New Line Cinema was gonna go tanked, but then Nightmare on Elm Street came out, and boom, we now know New Line Cinema, what New Line Cinema is today. We're releasing all like just the best horror movies, like the Final Destination movies. I mean, New Line Cinema put out good Boogie Nights. Like, it's just that subsidiary, which then I believe like New Line Cinema, I probably should fact check this, but I don't think that they were owned first by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers actually purchased New Line Cinema, and then it became like a subsidiary, you know, like their little fun projects, the better movies of Warner Brothers, unless it's like Goodfellas or some shit like that. So anywho, Evil Dead became infamous on VHS, gaining notoriety for its shock factor and getting banned in places like the UK as a video nasty. Video nasties were a bunch of movies in the UK that were just exactly like it said, banned, but nobody could watch them for years. They would have to get like bootlegs of it or something like that from someone before the internet, and you can like just steal movies. That's what you had to do. You got a bootleg from somebody, you know what I mean? Raimi and his crew proved that you didn't need Hollywood money to make a terrifying, imaginative movie. Just guts, sweat, and a little corn syrup. A little bit ago I talked about like you know, that cool shot that runs through the woods. It's just so cool. And Raimi, he did that so much. You know, he invented a lot of wild camera tricks, including the shaky cam, you know, as I said. The demon point of view, using a plank of wood and a couple of guys sprinting through the woods. Like, that is DIY at its finest, and it makes it such a cool shot that you can do at home yourself. The gore effects were melted cream corn, oatmeal, dyed Caro syrup, and even real meat for the disinterrogation scene. The contact lenses for the possessed actors were so thick they could only be worn for 15 minutes at a time. The Evil Dead went on to make so many other movies. There's a 2013 reboot, which I actually like. I really like the approach of how they took it like as if this woman was withdrawing and all this stuff. And I was like, just the setup was really cool and unique, and I really liked that. And then we even got a 2023 sequel called Evil Dead Rise. However, back in 1987, Evil Dead 2 came out, and it's pure mayhem. And it's so much fun. It's a lot of fun. That's why a lot of people, I think, like, they go to that movie before they even think of watching Evil Dead, which you can totally skip the first Evil Dead and watch Evil Dead 2, because they kind of do like this quick recap, and then they reshoot it as like they remade their first movie and made it better, dare I say, but you have to love and respect the original Evil Dead just because of like everything that it did. And then in 1992, we got Army of Darkness, which is just medieval madness. That movie's a whole lot of fun. I remember watching that movie as a kid and just being like, what is this movie? And then obviously as I got older, I was like, oh, there's 2 other ones before this thing. And then we got the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series that came out, and that was pretty fun. I feel like though there's a world of Evil Dead that I can live in for only so much time. I mean, that's why I think the movies are just perfect. And that's no shade whatsoever to the TV series. It is a lot of fun. But Evil Dead, I mean, that movie's like under like 80 minutes long. The Evil Dead 2 is like 90 minutes long. Army of Darkness is like 90 minutes long. They're just in and out movies. Give me a tight 90. I love a tight 90. Just get them in and out, you know? It's the ongoing problem with movies nowadays. I feel it's just like, why are movies like 2-3 hours long? Unless it's like absolutely needed. As an editor, every time I go into the movies, I'm just like, could have cut that, could have cut that, could have cut that. It's just like, just get in and get the hell out. We're not on YouTube, you know? The longer the video doesn't mean more ads when you're in a movie theater. The Evil Dead isn't just a horror flick. It's a masterclass in how raw creativity, passion, and commitment to the bit can make something truly unforgettable. It's gritty, gross, groundbreaking, and groovy. My personal thoughts, I mean, that's just, Evil Dead is one of those movies, if you have never seen, you should really go see it. I mean, you can probably stream it somewhere for free these days. However, there is a 4K restoration of it, and it's phenomenal. It's so good. They both look really, really good. I think Lionsgate put it out, and like, they really did great. I mean, I'll tell you what, Lionsgate's been crushing it with the 4K restoration. The Kill Bills and Jackie Brown that came out, and even like the Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, the Blu-rays were upscales from the DVD, so they kind of look like shit, but they actually got a proper 4K restoration now, and wow, I'm blown away. And they did an Atmos sound mix to it, and it's so good. Just that's for the Kill Bills and Jackie Browns and all that stuff. However, Evil Dead looks and sounds amazing too. Evil Dead 1 and 2. And if you don't want to start with Evil Dead, which is more serious, you got that one really serious scene in there, and which is why it was cut out and became a video nasty essentially. But if you want to skip that first one, you can totally go to Evil Dead 2 and have just as much fun, if not more fun. I think they kind of also like took themselves like, let's just have fun with it. And that's the way it should be with movies. So that's it for today. Just a quick one. I also feel like I did an Evil Dead deep dive before. I need to like go back into videos. It has been a while. I might keep up with these. I'm not sure. I just kind of want to do something for myself right now and just, you know, have a little fun. That's a little Evil Dead for you. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.